As I mentioned, at its core, Climate Fresk is an education workshop that teaches people the fundamental science behind climate change. And there is a huge thirst and demand for knowledge about climate change, whether it's from within a business, within an educational institution, or just for an individual. The workshop itself meets that need and satisfies that demand. So my name is Minchom, and I'm the UK project manager at Climate Fresk. I've recently transitioned into this role, having worked for the past 10 years in the startup space, in a commercial role. I felt the need, to explain why I've done this transition, I felt the need to take my personal passions, which were in kind of environment and interest in climate change, and apply them in a professional context, and find a more kind of purpose-driven role for myself. So as recently joined Climate Fresk, and I'm working with expanding their UK footprint. At its core, Climate Fresk is a workshop. It's an interactive workshop that teaches participants the science behind climate change. Based entirely on the IPCC reports, you can teach anybody, regardless of their experience, the fundamental science behind climate change. So that's what Climate Fresk is at its core. Taking a kind of further step, Climate Fresk is an international NGO on a mission to educate as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, about climate change. And our tool for educating people is the workshop itself. So that the NGO is set up to spread all across the world as quickly and effectively as possible this workshop. So we are focused on SDG 13, which is climate action. Climate change is an incredibly complex problem that affects all of us around the world right now, but it is still very badly understood. For example, a lot of people don't really appreciate or understand the role that greenhouse gases play in climate change at the moment, something that's completely fundamental. And we believe as an organisation that education is a means through which to empower people to take effective action. If we are able to raise everybody's level of climate literacy and of climate knowledge, it'll enable us to understand the problems and work together on the solutions to help transition to a low-carbon world. We believe that providing people a quality climate education will empower them to be able to take effective action and help us kind of transition to a low-carbon world. Fundamentally, if we don't understand the problem, we're not going to be able to work on the solution. As I mentioned, at its core, Climate Fresk is an education workshop that teaches people the fundamental science behind climate change. And there is a huge thirst and demand for knowledge about climate change, whether it's from within a business, within an educational institution, or just for an individual. The workshop itself meets that need and satisfies that demand. The entire organisation is built around working towards an environmentally sustainable world and fighting the climate emergency. But to give you some figures, the NGO has been going for just over 3 years, and in that time, over 350,000 people have taken part in the workshop. So that's the workshop, which is a 3-hour workshop. So that means it's over 1 million hours, human hours, dedicated to learning about the climate change through the Climate Fresk workshop. So that's one really important figure for us, and we're always trying to increase the reach and have as many people as possible participating in the workshop, and that's growing every single day. On the other hand, the really key figure for us is the number of what we call Freskers. So those are the people who facilitate the workshop and run the workshop themselves. And so there's now a community worldwide of over 17,000 volunteers who dedicate their time to running Climate Fresk workshop and teaching people about climate change. And again, that figure is growing every day. And our target for the moment is to reach our first 1 million participants of the workshop by the end of this year. So it's an ambitious target, but the fact that we're growing exponentially means that we're heading in the right direction. Beyond that, we are trying to reach as many participants as possible, as quickly as possible. And we believe that if we're able to raise the level of climate knowledge and climate understanding among citizens, business leaders and politicians, that will give us the tools we need to work towards a sustainable future.